All right, man. Thanks, John,
What's
for
going on?
hanging out tonight. We'll go live and hang out as long as we can do it. So I know right before we hopped on, you said you had some
How's
questions or
everybody?
whatnot. So what's up?
How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah,
Yeah, how's
but
everybody doing?
no, I was going to ask you, what is your favorite, and what box set were you looking at? You were talking about that. What were you talking about getting?
Box set. I'm sorry.
You were talking about getting a Ray Harryhausen box set. Which one were you
Oh yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about?
There's some of them that some of the Ray Harryhausen box sets that came out like 10, 15 years ago. They came with like the different figures from some of his movies, and the creatures I'm skipping it in my mind here. I am blanking it. But Kraken, one of them I think is a Kraken, and I don't know what the other one was, but there's a couple of different ones, and I wanted to get a couple of those because again, I'm a big fan of just like limited edition box sets or like kind of hard to find stuff. And those ones are not crazy expensive. There's two of them I'm aware of. And then of course there's a Blu-ray set which I like too. But there's one with Cyclops has a Cyclops figure, and there was something else like I can't remember. There's a few. There's one or two, like I said. But there's another one that's the Planet of the Apes with the actual Cornelius's head, I
Yeah,
believe. It came out, and in Japan they have one with the actual Queen Alien's head with all the discs inside the alien's head.
that's cool.
That's like this huge, like I said, it's the actual head. I think that's cool. I really want to get that. There's a Terminator one with the T2 with the that they have that one. There's a bunch of stuff out there. I just like. I think it looks good. It looks like little pieces of artwork because that's essentially what it is. Some of them are just to look at, like the ones with the Harryhausen. There's no practical purpose for them, but some of them are. That's how you store the movies are stored inside those heads or whatever. So, what about you? Your collection? Do you have anything like that or not really?
With the figures and things, not
Well, yeah, just
really.
yeah, like
Oh,
anything that was kind of like limited edition that that only came out for a short time. It doesn't have to be like some big display.
yeah, oh, yeah. I got quite a few things. I have that indicator set. Well, I got those two indicator sets of John Ford. That one's John Ford and the other's uh I forget his name, Bud Bedecker. I'm sorry, and they're both
Oh, okay, yeah.
indicators, English company. So they one of them is region free and the other one is not. One's region locked, but they are all numbered sets. They always make like 6,000 of them, something like
Uh huh.
that, and um I have that set that come out last year, the Al Adamson set that come out. It's pretty
Um.
nice. It has all of his stuff. That's a nice set. That's a Severin set. Um, Sorry, I keep looking at my stuff. That's because it helps me
Oh.
remember. I have a lot. I got quite a few sets like that. I'd imagine I have that Fly box set, stuff like that. But that's not
Yeah.
unusual. They kind of mass produce that. But I bought. I guess as far as some of the stuff I have like that is I got like the Godzilla Criterion Collection set. It looks like a big book, and
Oh yeah.
and just a lot of stuff. I've got that Gunsmoke set that came out last year, which it has all of them together, which is nice. I've
Yeah. I
been
saw
waiting for
you.
that for years and years. So
Yeah, my dad loved that show, and I remember you mentioned
yeah.
I hadn't thought about it forever, and then you showed it in one of your videos not too long ago. You highlighted it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that thing looks legit. So
They
yeah.
give a they
Yeah.
give a bunch of those away too. Whenever they were promoted it last year, they give them to all kinds of people uh, like a Cool Duder and stuff. They give it to him. I was like, man, why'd you give him that? Because I guarantee he don't even open that thing up.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. He does watch a lot of the stuff he gets though, because he reviews stuff in like his the end of his video. So I mean, he's watching quite a bit of stuff.
Yeah, I remember way back when he first started out, like, I don't know, 12, 14, 15 years ago. I don't know how bad. I mean, I probably watched him when he first started out. Like, I stumbled upon him somehow. I don't even remember how. And I remember, like, he was the first guy I was ever brought to my attention who had like a huge collection that talked about physical media. Before then, I thought I was the only person out there that was like that, quite frankly, because I didn't do videos at the time, but I thought I was the only one who was a collector of movies. Because some people will buy stuff they like, especially 15, 20 years ago. People just buy stuff, but they weren't like really collecting. They just knew that, hey, I want to buy this because I like it, and I want to see it more than one time. I mean, that's how it was. But I was like going and looking for special collector's editions and looking for things with documentaries like we talked about before, or commentaries or whatever, and looking for different variations and things. I'm like, that's what collectors do. It wasn't just buying the movie one time or sometimes. And so when I saw his channel, I was like, wow, there's other people out there like myself. That's cool. And then of course I opened up the Pandora's box that we all know about. There's like, it's a rabbit, a black hole or a rabbit hole you fall down and you just keep going and going and going. So, but I want to tell you today I got to watch you do the most recent video you did was your Kino Lorber. Is that right? You showing off all that? Man, that was awesome, dude. I did not realize you had that many Kino Lorber box sets and releases. I was like, wow, that was impressive. And I know I made a comment or whatever about it, but I could never talk about how much stuff you had shown off. That's some dedication. So, is there anything you're looking forward that you feel like any gaps in your collection from Kino Lorber that you want to try to get? Like, is there something you missed out on that you want to go back and try to get?
I'm not a completionist with their stuff. They got a lot of stuff out there. They got a lot of horror and stuff that they have stuff you wouldn't believe. You just had to go to their website and look through their stock. It's just amazing.
I'm waiting for the next sale.
Really,
the next sale, I'm gonna probably spend a lot of money.
Yeah, you get personally for me it would just be continuing trying to buy those boxes when they come out, and I don't know how many boxes I don't have that they've released. I try to buy them anytime I find out there's a new one coming out, because they're usually not too bad expensive. Like those 3 movies are only usually like $30 or something. So they're not $10 a Blu-ray, so it's not that bad.
Their prices are very reasonable. I don't know if it was you or I watch so many people. Sometimes things run together, but I always think like Kino Lorber has one of the few companies that keep their prices very reasonable, and they give you a lot for your bang for your buck, I think. But there are some companies out there that don't do a lot for their releases, and then they charge you like $30-$40, and you don't get hardly anything. So it's always good to support a company like Kino Lorber where I feel like they put quite a bit of work into it. They try to put a lot into there, and generally speaking, they're about $20 a pop, roughly. And then if you get the sales, they're even cheaper.
Yeah, you can pick them up sometimes for $15 or $15 if they've been around for a while. I think the prices have been more consistently higher recently because I think a lot of people have caught on to them and started buying them.
Yeah, I think you're right.
The way I became familiar with them, it's probably, I'd say after I started buying Blu-rays, probably around 2012 or 13. I'm not sure when they actually started, but I remember I started getting these discs and it would have Kino Lorber. And I was like, who the heck's Kino Lorber? I don't know what because I didn't know much about. At that time didn't know much about the boutique companies because they were just becoming a thing, except for Criterion.
Yeah.
But that was about it. Others, Criterion and Shout, I knew about those, but I never knew about Kino Lorber. So I started getting discs. I'd buy like Westerns and things, and they kept coming in to Kino Lorber. I was like, what are these? So just would buy them, and I'd buy more of these older movies, and they were coming in like that. So I kind of read up on them a little bit and found out they were doing these. They all looked really good. The transfers looked good, and Keno's got this weird thing, and I always like to talk to somebody that's in charge of their transfers. They have this thing where like the opening shot, like the very first scene in a shot is blurry, and it looks like they leave like a couple of frames in there of or maybe more than a couple of frames, but like they leave like maybe a scene with the original cut, and then when it cuts for the first time, it goes to like goes to the transfer scene. I don't think that's what they're doing, but it just looks like that sometimes on their transfers. It might just be how their processing machine may do it. Like it may not kick in right at the first millisecond of when it's loading up. So
that'd be cool though. That'd be cool. They did it on purpose just to give you like a brief look at what it would look like prior. Because that was like, have you remember Fight Club where they do that scene? You know, they do that cigarette burn scene. They put that in there. I thought that was really cool. I mean, obviously, it was like part of the story, but it was cool. So we have a couple questions that are popping up real quick. So the first one being is, well, I don't know if it's not much of a question, but I want to ask you what your thoughts. Would it be funny if Target stopped selling movies? So what's your thoughts about big box stores and physical media? I know we talk about going to some Dollar Trees and Dollar Generals and do this, that, and the other, but that kind of stuff, I feel like it's a little bit more towards the lower income type buying anyways. But when you're talking about Targets and Walmarts and Meijer and all that, do you see that that's eventually going to be phased out or like shrunken down to very little bit of their like electronic section? What's your thoughts?
Oh yeah, it's happening already. Especially I've seen it more and more at all the stores. You don't see it as much at Walmart because they're still selling, but like Best Buy has reduced every year. That gets smaller and smaller. Like Best Buy now is like basically one wall of DVDs. They used to have in my Best Buy. They used to have the back corner, like two different walls, pretty good sized walls full of DVDs, and now one wall is like shrunk down to one little section where they've got some box sets and things, and the other set's almost bare completely. It's just got some new releases and a few, steel books and things in there. And then they always have that little kiosk up in the front of the store with all the new releases, and it's bare. When I went in there just a couple of days ago, and they were bare, like they didn't have nothing. And I've been seeing that in different people's videos. They've been posting pictures of Best Buy being bare. So that's one. Target, I've not bought a whole lot from Target over the years. I mean, I know they occasionally have some good stuff, but that looks like their DVD section is about the same. They're kind of, especially during the pandemic, they've not been getting in releases as frequently or not restocking the shelves as frequently, and their sections are starting to shrink as well. So I do see it disappearing. It's not going to disappear for a while. It's kind of weird. Like it really, for the box stores, they have been shrinking during the pandemic. They've used it as an excuse to kind of shrink those sections down. But the industry has it. But I think the pandemic actually saved the industry a little bit by at least a couple of years. I think because people realize there's been a lot of people out buying. I think that's why there's so many new channels been started out here, which I'm a new channel, but I'm not a new collector. But there's a lot of people that look like they just started collecting, and I think it's because they realize streaming's not ever going to, at least not right now. It's never going to be able to satisfy your movie needs and wants, especially if you like older movies, and just if you're trying to look for even like something maybe from the 80s or something. When I talk about older movies, I guess you got some younger people out there. The older movies are the 80s, but old movies to me is like 30s, 40s, things like that. That's an old movie, 50s. Because I grew up in the 80s. We grew up in the 80s, so that's what we grew up with.
Right. Yeah. That's just like normal. That's not oldies or whatever. That's just like.
But you can guarantee that they're trying to get rid of physical media. It's going to be little by little, but because there keeps being rumors and things like that about some of the major studios shutting down there, because I think it was Warner Brothers. I believe they're the ones who's been getting rid of everybody, all their physical media people.
Yeah.
The people's in charge of physical media and like that.
Right.
They're pretty much been getting rid of all of them.
Yeah, for me, my thinking is that it's not going to happen like you said anytime soon. I would say we're got about a good decade left as they continue to phase things out. But I think what they're going to do is, in my humble opinion, because you're already starting to see it happen, is that everything's going streaming, or everything's going to go into like an on-demand. Even like Paramount and Disney or whatever, like Warner Brothers, they'll do it'll be like almost a boutique thing with them. They'll do releases, but it'll be like off their websites. There's going to be like special promotional type stuff. They're not just going to have like, real estate in a Walmart or a Target or whatever like they used to have. It's just going to be very minimal, and you're going to have to go to like their actual websites and get it or whatever, because that's essentially what a lot of them are doing anyways. I mean, everything, like all these companies are pulling everything off of the shelves and or other streaming services and making their own channels, so you can find everything underneath their umbrella. And I have a Roku, and like almost every studio has an app on the Roku, so you can go stream their service. I mean, literally everybody: Paramount,
yeah.
Warner Brothers, Fox, Disney, all these companies, So it's not like this is like, just making it up. That's true. So I think that has a lot to do with it. And like, I don't shop at Target. I refuse to shop at Target. And I have a Meijer close to my house. And, just a few years ago, their DVD Blu-ray section was like 5 or 6 sections, like, shelving and things. It's down to 1 front and back. That's it. That's all there is. And I mean, so I can see the right. I'll go to a Walmart every great once in a while, like I have to, like if I lose a bet or something, I'll go to a Walmart. But I don't see. Like I said, I agree with you. It's the writing's on the wall, but I think there's always going to be a service out there. There's always going to be people who want it, physical media. But I think you're going to have to find ways of getting it. It's just not going to be like you could walk in on a Tuesday like it used to be when you knew new releases were hitting the shelves and have like 600 new releases to pick from. You're going to have to go to websites or whatever and buy it directly from the source, or they're going to have like these boutique ones where they might rent out the titles to other companies and they can make it for you and whatever. But it's not just going to be like every movie under the sun's going to be there. So I kind of see. I agree. I see what you're saying. So
I think we will have a couple more, a few more years with the boutique companies, because they're gonna. I would say some of the major companies may license out their products over to places like Kino and Criterion and Shout Factory, and the people who's willing to do it, they may license some of it out. Because right now, when Disney came on board with Fox, they basically said, we're not going to release anything from Fox on physical media. Nothing's getting 4K releases. Mm-hmm. And I can't really mention all. I can't really think of all the movies that would have been released under Fox, but it's a big catalog of movies that's not going to get 4K releases. Now, of course, they release like the Star Wars, the first Star Wars. And the first Star Wars has an excellent 4K. It has a 4K transfer. But apparently that 4K transfer was done before its acquisition from Disney. It was done by Fox. That transfer was circulating around back in 2014 or something. That 4K especially. And it's a really good looking. That's why if you got that 4K, which I bought that, even though I hate the last 3 movies, I still bought that big box set Best Buy was putting out, just because I could get like the prequels and the original movies in 4K transfers and not have to buy it all individually and have it in a nice one big package.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, and for me, I'm the kind of collector who I'm a bargain collector a lot of times. Like if I can find good deals, or I can make a trade, or I can find eBay or Facebook or whatever that has good deals out there. If I go to a pawn shop, flea market, that kind of stuff, yeah, of course. But it's hard for me to spend 20, 30, 40 bucks on a DVD or a Blu-ray or a 4K, unless it's like just something that I just know I have to have, or it's just the rarity of it. It's just not going to be just in the wild, so to speak. But I mean, like, but it's gonna. I feel like more and more people that go digital or go to streaming or whatever means more for us, essentially, us physical media collectors. So I mean, yeah, are you gonna find some really hard to find rare stuff? Probably not. A lot of times that stuff's not gonna be in the wild. The really like on demand rare, limited edition releases or like obscure films that were only probably made like 6,000 of or whatever, and you're not gonna probably run into those too often. But it's still there's plenty of stuff to find, and you can always go to eBay and spend the extra money if you really want a premium, whatever. If you missed the boat on something. So, another question, I don't know if you can see this here, is I wonder if they will be ever grading like DVDs like they do grading sports cards. And the answer to that is golf. Yes, they've already started doing it. I actually have another friend of mine who's over at deadpit.com, Wes, and he told me about this. I didn't know this was a thing, but they're starting to grade DVDs and Blu-rays and things like that and put them in holders, and you get assigned a grade just like if you were turned in a Mickey Mantle rookie card or whatever. And they're doing that with video games. They're doing it with all kinds of stuff. So I mean, it's happening. I mean, I don't know I think you told me the cost for one DVD or Blu-ray or whatever was $35 per disc. Like the whole thing, they grade that for you. I guess it's like a 1 through 10, like they do with sports cards. But I mean, I don't know how you are, John, or not, but that to me boggles my mind. Like that somebody would take a movie, send it in to get it graded, and then you're never going to see that movie again because now it's encased. So you have to buy a separate one if you ever want to watch it again. So I'm assuming you send it in sealed. You just send it the movie in sealed, and they grade it. You've never been open, or else why would you send it in? Because they're going to grade it based on the packaging and then what it looks like. But I mean, I can't even imagine that. Would you be interested in that kind of thing?
Probably not too much because I'm not because the collection. I mean, it's worse. Movies are worse than cars. I mean, once you buy it and take it out of the package, it's lost pretty much 90% of its value. So
yeah,
I mean, it's a passion for me. I'm not worried about ever making my money back on it. I could sell everything I have and not make a 16th of what it was worth, just because if you ever go to any like half price books and try to sell anything, they want to give you pennies on the dollar for what you.
Oh yeah,
it's nothing. It's ridiculous, I mean, but they have to, because they got people. They have to do that. I think they do that because it prevents crackheads from stealing and coming in there and trying to sell stuff all the time. I think that's a big part of theft prevention. Why they don't give much for it. And they just have to do it simply to make money.
Yeah. Right. But they definitely charge you on the other end of it. If they know it's rare, they charge you a lot for it. So it is what I agree. So the next question is, and I agree, and I like to see what you think here. Do you think that these studios will eventually put themselves out of business by going so far heavy into streaming? Because, and I'll just share my thoughts real quick and then let you come up behind me. But my thoughts are this: that some people, when you only can have an a la carte type of experience until people finally say, I'm not buying this studio's a la carte channel. I'm not buying this studio and that studio and this studio. So somewhat, everybody might go to Disney. Disney might not have nothing to worry about. But then you're talking about like some random like maybe like a Paramount or like a Shout Factory or whatever. Eventually when you're charging so many people to go stream only, people start making like financial decisions. And I think that somebody or some company could run themselves into trouble because, maybe it's cheaper just to stream, but you still got to get eyes on your product and you still got to get pockets of money to your accounts. So what's your thoughts? Do you think that they could run themselves into some trouble? Or do you think, no, it's going to be fine? Like they're going to be all right.
Yeah, I mean, they're not going to be able to keep on making. They can't. They like Paramount Plus and stuff. Some of these ones that are just getting on board, they're going to fail because they just don't have any market share. And if you don't have any market share, but they're still not going to be making the kind of money on these streaming services they would in theaters. There's just no way, and they know it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just seen some numbers earlier from Disney where they lost like $648 million last quarter. This in the second quarter, and some people are speculating it's because of all the Gina Carano and all that stuff, but. I mean, it's really not a massive loss for them, but they supposedly have like a little over 100 million subscribers, which that's a lot. You know, I think HBO Max is up there, but they're just not going to make the money they are in the theaters. And I think they will. I just don't know what's going to happen. So a new model is going to have to be molded, and it's not been molded yet because they just don't know what they're doing.
Right, and I think for me personally, I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods, and I don't know if I know Henry's here, and Golf's here, and Silly Goose who just showed up. Hey, what's up, dude? Thanks for popping in. But my thinking is that I've heard so many people now say they're not interested in going to the theater anymore. Like having a year and 2 or 3 months now of no theaters have, I think, broken a lot of people of the habit of going to the theater to watch it. But then also people can't, because either they're scared or they don't know if they can just wait for it to come out on, a streaming service of some sort. But then on the flip side, also I hear people say, I'm not spending $40 on Black Widow being released on Disney Plus. That's ridiculous. So, I don't know if that same person's saying both things, or you have one part of the population who refuse to go to the theater now and maybe won't go back because they can just say, I'm going to wait it out. But then are those same people saying, well, I'm not spending $40. I'll wait 6 months until they release it for free on the streaming service. I mean, so I'm just wondering, like you said, they're going to have to come up with something. So I feel like the theater model has been broken. And I don't know if this is going to ever be able to be repaired, quite frankly, because I live in a pretty big area. I live outside of Indianapolis, Indiana. So this is like the 12th biggest city in the United States or the 19th biggest city. It's not like it's, a small town. And there is hardly any theaters that are open in my like 20, 30 mile radius. And before March of 2019 or 2020, I mean, I could throw a rock and hit a theater almost. So I don't know if that's been the experience of other people around the United States, but I'm hearing a lot of people saying the same thing. Like, there's a handful of theaters that are open, but it's a lot of theaters that went out of business, bankrupt, and all that. So I don't think, I think they're going to have to come up with something.
The Cinemark theaters around here, the one in Richmond is open. I know they're doing a little bit. I haven't been back, not because I'm scared. I just haven't went over there because there's nothing been really interesting. I would like to see the Godzilla movie on the big screen before it goes out. But the Cinemark's been open, but we have a Regal theater in Lexington, which was my favorite to go to, Regal Cinemas. I think it's Tinseltown and other areas and something like that. But they're out of business as far as I can tell. They haven't opened back up, at least. I think that some other Cinemarks, and there's another place called the Movie Tavern. This place where you can sit down and have a meal and everything like that while you watch a movie, and it's, as far as I know, it's not reopened either. So it's killed it's killing everything. Because the rent, I forget the rents. The guys on Nerd Rod or on the Half Night Tots went through it, or Friday Night Tots, excuse me, Friday Night Tots, excuse me. They went through some of the numbers one night about how much these places, one of the big places in LA was shutting down, like one of the big cinema complexes out there. And I forget how much they said their rent was a month. Their rent was like several $100,000 a month rent.
I'm so not at all surprised by that.
Yeah. I think that it was ridiculous. Now they bring in a lot of money, but evidently they're just not prepared to have any kind of failure at all. It's just like, it's almost like they're living paycheck to paycheck. They just,
well, I mean, I know a lot of the,
they're not built to fail.
Well, I know that a lot of these, like, major studios in these major cities, not only are they initially, and maybe still in some cases, things are of course almost completely back to normal. But a lot of them, I thought they were, they were being shut down because the city or the government or whatever telling them to. But then you have a lot of them who virtue signal themselves out of business. They're like, oh, we're not opening it up. We're keeping everybody safe. All these like local independent ones and stuff. And then they went out of business to virtue signal themselves right out of their jobs. And it's kind of mind boggling because you even have the states and some cities are opening up or limited capacity. They're like, no, we're doing this to keep you safe and keep our employees safe. We're not going to open up. And then they get shuttered. And I'm like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, are you not wanting to keep your business afloat? Do you not want to make money? Do you not want to, come up with a strategy to get butts in the seats? Because there are a segment of the population that either one, don't care and they're going to take the risk, or two, as long as you keep it as safe as you can, quote unquote, they're going to show up. So yeah. I was very surprised, like when I see stuff like the Alamo Draft House or like the one that Quentin Tarantino runs in Hollywood or Los Angeles, and I'm like follow them on Facebook or whatever, and they're like, oh, we're doing this for your safety and our employees' safety, and then they're saying stuff like, give us your money, we're doing these like, we're selling a poster with autographs on it to keep raising money for our business because we can't open up. It's like, no, you can open up. You're choosing not to. So I mean, once this really truly is over, I wonder what the landscape looks like.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot of theaters out of business for sure.
Yeah,
and it's going to be difficult for a while. I don't know if there's going to be. I don't know if some of the movie studios are going to go in and buy out some of these movie theaters so they can basically run their own movies in it throughout the country. I don't know if that's going to happen, or like big corporations go in and buy them out, because it'll definitely be a buyer's market for some of that property.
Because you got tons of theaters that are sitting vacant, not being used, and obviously they all still work. It wasn't like they like gutted these places and took everything with them. It's all still sitting there. So it's definitely blow the dust off of it and turn the electricity back on and it's ready to go. So for sure. But yeah.
I'm not sure exactly how. See, the theaters used to use platter film system. It's just like their projector was like a big platter system. It was like a horizontal. The film laid horizontally down, and it was a big, it's a big ordeal. But I think they've all went to some kind of digital deal where they basically pop in a disc, and I would think they've all went to that now. But I'm not positive if they have. I mean, some places still have it for old movies, but
oh sure.
But it seemed like the industry could make it a lot easier on themselves, because that's where a lot of cost was before, because the theaters had to, and I'm assuming they're still having to pay huge costs for renting the movies. You had to rent the movies basically from the distributor, and really that's why concessions are so expensive, because that's where they make their money at. And they have to be making, they're still making tons of money. The profits are huge. There's an old Cinemark theater in Lexington that went out of business, and it was they basically built a new one, and so they closed some. There's like 2 or 3 old ones they closed down, and they opened up one big new one. And it was one of my favorite theaters to go to. But I was reading I guess I went to an online article to read about why it closed down, and it was something crazy. They're like, oh, well, last year we only made like $200 million profits instead of $230 million profits. So we could, so it was crazy, or made 2/3. It was the numbers were astronomical, the kind of profits they were making, because they didn't make that extra 20 or 30 million. They had to close it down, or they decided to close it down.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's where we're at right now with all this stuff anyways, is that, they're going to have to make it make sense financially for people to come back. Obviously, it's a business, so they got to make money on that business. So, they're not going to throw money at something for it to fail. So they're going to have to come up with some strategies that make sense. But, I'm fine with going to the theater. I'm saying, even if I have to wear a mask or whatever, if it's something I really want to see, that's fine. I think we're pretty much past the mask thing at this point. At least here in Indiana, I go almost everywhere now with no mask, and there's not even like no one's really says anything. Not that anybody ever said anything anyways, even when I wasn't doing 7 8 months ago, but still, now it's almost like, the people who wear the mask are the weird ones, whereas before, when you didn't wear the mask, it was like, oh my gosh. So I think we're pretty much almost there in a lot of ways. But when you're in a tight quarters with a bunch of people in a dark theater, I still feel like there's a little bit of a hurdle that one must jump over for a segment of the population. So we'll see. I guess we'll see, like you said, how that shakes out. So let me take a look here and see. We got some other people talking. We got Chris in here, and Henry popped in. Still, yeah, I have 14 movies. I need to make a video maybe next week. So, I didn't realize you did video movies, Chris. I need to get on there and check out your channel, dude. I thought autographs only or TTMs. I guess I'm ignorant of what you do on your channel. I need to go check it out, man. I'm sorry about that. But anyway, so let me ask you, John, another question. So I know we talked about some like going to the physical media, going to the Dollar Trees, the Dollar Generals, and the Big Lots or whatnot. But my question for you is that, that's kind of cheaper, that's a kind of a cheaper way to collect. Do you give yourself a budget like per month or something that you try to stay within? Because, this type of hobby slash, whatever, I guess it's really just a hobby, but slash, what's the word I'm looking for? Like investment in some respects or whatever. Because really, if you think about it, as an investment, you're putting tons of money into something that you love that, will hopefully have dividends in the future, if nothing for knowledge. Do you have a certain budget you try to stay in per month because it can get expensive real fast? Or do you have a situation where you just kind of spend as you go, you don't really care?
Well, right now it's not a very big budget where I'm on disability, but maybe just a couple $100 now. But it used to be maybe upwards to $300 to $500. I did try to get reckless. I didn't spend every penny that I had in my bank account on movies. I always,
right.
I always kept it respectable. But I would try to look ahead and see if there was like a big set or something I wanted to get and kind of save for that and make sure I don't overspend just by getting that set. Because some sets are upwards to $200, so I'd maybe get that a month and not much else. Things like that. But when I was working, I had a pretty good, when I was working, I had a good job. So I was making good enough money to kind of be unlimited in what I wanted to buy. Not necessarily unlimited, but it was much easier. But now I've had to shift kind of. I think that's why I'm hitting the Dollar Trees more often now.
Right, but there's still good stuff to find. So it's not like. It is kind of surprising how good of deals you can find for like actually quality movies. And again, here's the thing: some people kind of poo on, or maybe I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but they kind of like maybe turn their nose down at it. But it's like, listen, it's $1. You spend more money getting coffee than you do on some of these like Blu-rays or even DVDs. And the thing is, if you don't like it, it's $1. You could just take it to a pawn shop or a flea market and flip it real quick, or just put it on eBay and sell it for a couple of dollars or whatever, if it's that big of a deal, or just keep it in your collection. It doesn't matter. You spend $1 on it. Literally a pack of gum costs more nowadays than some of this physical media you can find. So, to me, it's not even like a thing that I would even consider like making a big deal about. It's like, these are such good deals. And so I'm willing to take a gamble on $1 Blu-ray all day long. If it sucks, it sucks. Okay, fine. But I won't ever be like disappointed on that purchase. So
yeah, there was another channel that was getting some flack over that, and somebody was pointing it out to me. I went to watch the video. He had to do some backtracking. He's like, no, I'm not bad mouthing. He said some stuff like I would probably say about they're not, it's not real collectional stuff, but it's not true. I wouldn't really say that, but he said basically implied that it wasn't a real collecting Dollar Tree stuff. And he had to backtrack and say, well, no, I still buy the stuff. I just made a bad comment, but
Right. Yeah.
that's not how I feel, because the thing is you can find some real gems in that stuff. And the thing is, it's going to get better and better with all these box stores starting to get rid of because that's where it's going to go to. It's going to go down. It's going to go to Dollar Generals, Dollar Trees. And I don't know about Big Lots. I've heard a rumor that Big Lots is going to get out of the physical media business.
Well, I live not too far from a Big Lots, maybe 10 minutes away. And when I moved to the area, it was, again, like they had a couple different huge sections, like end caps and a couple solo stands or whatnot. And it would be like, quite a bit of options. Now they're down to just a one, like four shelved solo like little like stand in the middle of the store, and half the time it's like never filled up. So I don't know if they
That's
just get things. So I don't know if just things trickle in, or they just haven't been refilling it because there's nothing to refill, or what. So I do agree with you that I think that Big Lots does seem like they're not as on top of it like they used to be. So and again, that sucks, but it is what it is. But
That's
it's going to go somewhere.
Yeah.
What was it?
That's how mine was today. They only had that one center square rack, and they'd moved it to a different location. And for the past year, I've been going in there. It's been in the same spot. And they also had an additional cardboard stand where they kept like newer stuff. It was like a 2-sided cardboard. And then they kept the 4-sided rack. And then the rack's full because they consolidated that other rack into it, but it's the same stuff. It's been there for the past month, so it's nothing real new. That last haul I got out there was pretty good, but I think that's going to be about it out of there, at least right now.
Yeah, but I'll be interested to see how things shake out with a lot of this stuff. As like you said, a lot of places, either get completely out of physical media or start really reducing the amount that they have in the store. So I find it interesting for sure. So
I see a couple things that I found at Dollar General that I just randomly found. Crazy stuff.
Okay, let's take a look.
These are hard box sets. This was a good deal here. This was actually a good deal. This is, if you can see that. The Frank Darabont set, or Darabont set. No, it's got
Frank Darabont.
Yeah. It's got the Green Mile, the Majestic, and Shawshank Redemption.
Is it Blu-ray?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Yep.
For $10.
Yeah, $10. Yeah, and it's like it's a $20 set on it's a $20 set on Amazon. But that was just randomly in there for some reason. I found that yesterday. This is a set I've already opened it up and been watching it, but this was you can get this on Amazon for $20, and that's what I paid for it. I just went ahead and picked it up. It's a Frank Sinatra Blu-ray set
at the Dollar General.
Yeah, and these are hard box sets.
Nice.
Yep, Dollar General. I mean, it's crazy. Now you got to watch going to Dollar General, because they will have stuff priced in there that's not priced correctly. It'll be too expensive. This random stuff, most of the stuff is between $3 and $5. So.
Yeah, the weird thing is their Blu-rays are cheaper than their DVDs. If you ever pay attention, at least in my area, like all their Blu-ray, like the most expensive Blu-ray I've seen over there is like $10 all day long. Most expensive. But like you said, most things are between $4 to $6 there. But if you go grab a random DVD from like 20 years ago, it'll be like $18.95, and I'm like, what? I don't get it. There's nothing special about it. So like I went to two of them today. And I almost pulled the trigger and picked up 3 or 4, and I was like, nah. I'm glad I didn't, because I went and got some at the Dollar Tree. There was some over there when I was waiting for my son from school. But I'm going to probably go at the end of the weekend and pick up those, because they have like Land of the Dead, which is another Romero movie I don't have on Blu-ray. They had like season 1 of Ip Man from China, which I never seen. They had season 1 for $2 on Blu-ray.
Yeah.
They had Assault on Precinct 13 for like $3 on Blu-ray, the remake, not the original Carpenter. And then there was a couple other ones on there too. I was like really surprised by some of it. So I mean, I can come out of there, spend less than $15 and have like literally 6 to 8 Blu-rays that are really good that you can easily find for a lot more other places that you're getting for half off, if not a third off, other locations.
Yeah.
So
there's some crazy finds to be had out here. See, they used to not be. You never did see movies like that in those stores. But that's why I never collect. I think I was talking to you before about that. How I didn't, or I was talking to somebody about that earlier about how I didn't. I never had that. I didn't have that kind of collecting mentality because that's for I've collected since '98. You didn't have that option for so many years. So Dollar Trees and stuff, I never, because those stores used to carry crap. As far as movies went, if you remember back in the day, they just would sell garbage like religious stuff and things you didn't really want, or just. And then all of a sudden, they just started getting. They started their people started buying like these wholesale items.
Right.
Started wholesaling and buying like back stock from old stores.
Well, now they know they can make money off of it, so they're definitely going to do that. And you know what Dollar General is going to end up doing is they're going to see that more people are going to buy the cheaper stuff, and they're leaving the DVDs that are like, we got priced for $20. It makes no sense. Somebody's going to eventually figure that out. They're going to need to drop those prices, and then people are going to start going in there like they do the Dollar Tree, because they're going to come in there and like start wiping them out, because they're going to see they have money just sitting on that shelf that just sitting there and no one's buying it, because who's going to spend $20 on a DVD? But they will spend $5 on a DVD or even $1 in some cases, but their prices are so ridiculous half the time, it doesn't make any kind of sense. So they'll eventually get to the memo, and when that does happen, like you said, it'll be another place that people are going to really wear out because the prices are going to be reasonable. It's just kind of crazy, the prices. What about this here? One of the guys, Chris, asked, do the Dollar Tree movies mostly, do they do the Dollar Tree get new movies mostly once a month? I don't know how it is in your neck of the woods, but in my Dollar Trees and my Dollar Generals, it seems like it's somewhat random. Maybe it's not. Maybe there is a schedule for it, Chris. But to my knowledge, when I don't go in there like every day, so I can't really speak to it. But it does seem like sometimes it's very random in my neck of the woods. Like, you might go a week where there's like it's packed full of new stuff, and then I'll go 2 weeks later and it's like nothing's there. What about you, John?
Like I was saying before, I'm Dollar Tree hunting, so I've been what I've learned from other collectors who've been going there a lot. It looks they get waves in, and it's not monthly. I think it used to be monthly, but I think it's almost bi-monthly now, because everybody's been talking about how it probably won't be till next month that they get another wave in, because it's kind of been at the end of this last wave. I think it was like the end of March, or no, the end of April.
End of April, yeah.
It was the last wave, and it kind of few weeks, and then they get another one. I don't really know. I don't really know. I'm curious because I want to try. I'm trying to, with Gary at Gary's Movie Emporium, he's been he's been telling me a whole lot because he's big onto it. He knows it. So
no, I'm sure he knows. Like, he probably has like the guy's phone number. They give him a call and say, "Hey, we got him. Come and get it."
Oh yeah. I won't go into it on the line here on the air, but he's pretty knowledgeable of what he's doing.
Right. So well, that's a question that Chris.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying that's actually what Chris was saying. Is like he thought about going up to the Dollar Tree and talk to them about talk to the stalkers, like people who run it, and then see if they can reach out to him and before they put him out, so he can come and take a look. I mean, I don't know if that's a thing that these like Dollar Trees will do for you. Maybe if you got the right person. I know that there are a lot of people who do stuff like that. I know, especially with sports cards, they have before they hit the shelves, they got the guy who drops the sports card off Hey man, I'm gonna make a drop off at such and such place on Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning. If you want to come, I'll wait for you or whatever. So I'm assuming that stuff can happen with the Dollar Tree places as well. Have you heard about that? Is that a thing that you can work out with somebody?
Heard people, being able to go in the back and being shown boxes before they're put out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I don't do that. I don't have any interest in doing that because I'm not going to buy the whole box of them because I don't want most of the stuff that's in there. I just want to try to find some older movies and just some interesting things, but I don't want to go in there and buy 40 movies or something. That's just not, if that's your thing, that's fine. And that is how some people operate. And that's absolutely fine. Cause some of these guys, they kind of trade around and stuff like that. And I don't do a whole lot of that unless I have an extra copy of something because I like to keep my collection
I'm the same way. Right. Well, like today's a good example. Like, there wasn't a whole lot of Blu-rays and DVDs in the Dollar Tree I went to. There's probably like 40 or 50 at the absolute max. And that's probably being generous. And I mean, I could have went up and bought every Blu-ray they had because I know I could turn around and sell them each for at least between $3 to $5. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's a Blu-ray and the subject matter usually is, pretty desirable because they're horror movies, a lot of them or whatnot. They come with their slip covers and all that. But I mean, I just bought four individual ones, not four the same, for my own personal collection, like you said. Now, sometime I might buy two if I want to do a trade with somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, we talked about that or whatever. But because I know sometimes we miss out on things that might be at mine but not at yours and vice versa. But like, like I said, we've talked about before, like, I don't know if it'd be worth my time to try to be buddies with like the manager of a Dollar Tree. Because if they tell me, oh, I can go and look at all this stuff, I mean, they might have 100 titles, but I'm only interested in 2 of them. And I'm not spending $40, $50. I'm going to spend like $2. So I was like, to me, it's not maybe necessarily worth it because I'm not going to spend like $100 on, a bunch of Blu-rays and DVDs because I'm not trying to do this as my job. I'm trying to do this as a collector.
Yeah, I agree. But it's crazy how popular the Dollar Tree videos are. They just get massive views. I mean, I don't have hardly any subs right now, and my video got like almost 200 views, and they all do like real well. It's crazy.
I think people just look at it as a means of it's cheap entertainment. You can participate in it. Because obviously everybody has a Dollar Tree next to their house, it seems like, or a Dollar General and all that stuff. So if it's something you really want, the likelihood of you getting it is up there, because it's not like a limited edition type of thing. But I do agree that I think that's one thing that people get connected to that. Plus, quite honestly, if you know what you're doing, like, I like to talk about the movies I'm picking up. So, we bring people to my channel, and I mean, I'm not just showing 70 different movies in a 50-minute video. You know what I'm saying? I'm showing maybe 10 movies in a 20-minute, 18-minute video, but I'm talking about what I'm showing, I'm just not whipping through just 100 films just so I can get again, for me, it's more about the movies, like you're saying, as a collector, and not just a guy who's on YouTube just showing off every title I picked up. Like, I went and got, Rubber Ducky, You're the One on DVD, and it's like, why would a grown man buy Rubber Ducky or whatever cartoon? I don't get it. Like, why would you do that? Why would you watch that? It doesn't make any sense to me. Are you into rubber duckies? But I mean, that's like the stuff that sometimes people show off on their channel. I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. Like, I don't get it. So,
well, I know Gary buys stuff like that, but he has a kid, 2-year-old, so he does buy it for him.
Kids,
but some of them has kids, but I know what you're saying. There's just no, like there's a lot of but there's some people just buy everything in the wave. They try to buy one of everything or multiples of everything so they can trade. And I don't, and there's a lot of crap in there. That's the problem. There's a lot of trash in there. If you pick through, That's the stuff I try to get. This stuff. Well, it's interesting to me. I know stuff that's crap to me is not to somebody else.
Right.
You know, but I'm not a big horror fan, but I do buy some of those horror movies because some of them are low budget horror, and I do kind of want to see some of that stuff. You know.
Right.
But
Now, and I mean, also to me, like we talked about before, for me, even if it's something like I have no interest in, like maybe like at the end of the day, like I have on a normal regular, like if I saw that movie or DVD, Blu-ray or whatever, anywhere else for more than $1, I would 100% pass on it, you know. But because I'm willing to take a chance for $1, I mean that's how I bought like 2/3 of my Nicolas Cage collection. It's like, you know, all his movies end up over there. It feels like that he's made in the last like 6-7 years, and it's like, would I ever spend $5, $10, $15 on a Nicolas Cage movie from recent time? Absolutely not, because to me it's just not worth the money. But if I can find one for $1, I'll be a huckleberry. I'll pick it up and we'll give it a whirl. And I mean, I did a review for A Score to Settle that he did. I love that movie. I would have definitely passed on that if it was anything more than $1. But I took a chance on it, and it was a great movie. You know, I'm going to hold on to it. You know, it's in my collection now. But like I said, you know, I would never done that for the $1. But like, you know, some people just get everything under the sun, and I just don't get it. I just don't. To me, I don't get it. But it's whatever.
Yeah, I try not to criticize too much. It's whatever you want to do makes you happy, I guess. In it,
yeah.
That's what that other guy was trying to say. It's what I'm going to say now. It's just not a well-rounded collection when you're just buying everything,
right?
Because a lot of. But the thing is, you're like me. You like to watch the movies you're buying. I buy it like up until this past year during the pandemic, I'd watch probably at that point I probably watched 98% of what I owned. But during the pandemic, they started releasing a bunch of stuff, and I started buying a lot of stuff, and I got behind on my watching. So, but it used to be if I wanted to watch a movie, I bought it to watch, and the day I got it, I bought it, I would come home and watch it. Or if I bought 2 or 3, I would watch them consecutively together and watch them, and then put them into the collection and keep watching them. I followed behind now the past year, but that's my intention is to watch everything. I want to watch everything that I buy. I don't like buying a lot of stuff that I'm not going to watch. There's some. Yeah, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I'll remember.
There's some guilty pleasures in there, of course, but that you may only watch one time, especially with television shows and stuff like that. But I have a few things like that, but you know, everybody does. But I don't want my whole collection to be guilty pleasures. I don't want it to be rom-coms that I have no interest in. Sandra Bullock movies and stuff like that, you know.
Right.
Which I have some Sandra Bullock movies that are good, you know, but she made some good ones. The Net and stuff like some of the 80s stuff. And The Blind Side was pretty good, you know.
Oh, yeah. Man, I haven't thought about that movie forever, but yeah. I mean, for me, I also have found out recently, I don't think I've ever used to think of it like this, but I definitely think of it like this now, and I'm sure you probably agree. There is definitely a difference between the collector hobbyist YouTube channel and the buyer channels. Like, they're not talking about watching the movies. They're not talking about the directors or the actors or like the cinematographer. They're not talking about the history of the film or the movie or that, you know, how the movie, you know, nothing about that. They're just showing you movies. They're just showing you what they got. They might not even know they don't even know why they might even bought it, but because everybody told you to buy it, they buy it. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, like, I cannot stand that. I mean, like, that to me is like, I mean, when I used to be really big into sports cards, I mean, that is like 90% of the channels out there. It's like an epidemic of people just buying cards and just showing you what they bought to to wow you and ooh and awe you, but they don't offer anything with you know who the player is, what they did, you know, what was the significance of that card or player. And then we have that same problem in the media world, I think, too, is, you know, you got a bunch of people who like to buy stuff and they might have some cool stuff, but they can't elaborate on it. So I'm just watching you show a bunch of stuff with no explanation. And to me, I like at least give me something. I don't need a 25-minute, meandering explanation of everything you have, but at least show me something more than like just 45 titles in one 25-minute video, and then we're done. I don't know. That just irks me.
Yeah, sometimes I don't show that many titles, but I talk too much about the movies.
No, I like that. I mean, that's why I was drawn to your channel. I was drawn to Mike's channel, Date Videos, because of the same thing. Like, he'll show movies, but then he spends 3 to 5 minutes, maybe longer, talking about them. And I mean, a lot of times it's things that I might not know about. Like, I don't know much about film noir. I mean, I know what it is. I understand it intellectually. I get it, but that's like a genre of film, if you can call it a genre, that I've just was before my time. My dad was never into it, so I didn't know much about it. But I'm interested because there are modern day noir type movies that came out that's nowhere near like the 30s and 40s or whatever, when it was like at the pinnacle. But like, like The Watchmen, has a noir type feel to it. Dick Tracy, of course, growing up, has a very noir feel to it. Then there's like the Mel Gibson movie, was it the Get the Gringo? He did. That has a very noir type feel to it. I mean, so there are a lot of movies out there that I watch that are modern takes on it, for sure. Sin City, of course, very noir type movie, So there's definitely lots of stuff I've been connected to. But, like when I watch you talk about it, or like, again, Mike, I'm like, I've learned a lot about certain actors or certain types of movies based off of what you all said, even though maybe it's only a few minutes like you talked about. And I'm like, I need to check out some of this stuff because I think I'll like it.
Yeah, I try to. Now with the Kino video, I did run through them a little bit because I had 167 to go through. So right. But I try to stop here and there and talk a little bit about things. But that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do that. I started the channel initially. I thought about probably doing more reviews and things, and I'm just not very good at reviewing. I don't know. I just don't have the gift of gab like some people do. I haven't figured out how to do those. I haven't figured out how to do them quite correctly yet. The way in the manner that I need to be doing them, in the kind of the way I speak and the in my mindset, and I just don't. I'm just not as articulate as some people are about those kind of things. Almost to do a real efficient review. I'm not saying you don't have to, but being able to, well, I'm gonna nix that. I was gonna say you probably need to be using these big words and stuff and be able to like kind of. That's not true, but yeah, I mean, and I can do that to some degree, but it's not. I'm just not very good at them. I'm trying to figure the reviews. I'm trying to find my voice right now, and I just haven't found them yet. That's why I'm sticking to like a lot of the collecting right now. Sure. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do.
And I think it just comes with time and like practice or whatever. Like you said, knowing how you want to present it and then getting comfortable with that. Like you said, finding your voice. I mean, my thing is that like I did a review just yesterday, which I'll probably post tomorrow or Sunday, maybe even, I don't know. And it's over the one of the movies I picked up at the Dollar Tree a couple weeks ago, the Australian movie Boar, with the killer wild pig movie from there. And I actually found it quite interesting, and I think that would be a review that I would have done like less than 5 minutes, but I ended up doing like a 12-minute review of the film. And I mean, sometimes I think I enjoy the people who just talk about their experience watching the movie. It doesn't have to be super eloquent. It doesn't have to be super fancy. I just think like, hey, just tell me why you like the movie. And then that gives me the reason why I can either think I'll get it or not. Sometimes I feel like people who and I'm not saying this about anybody in particular, but sometimes I feel like people try to be a little bit too smart on their movies and try to drop too many like, insider terminology or words or whatever. And I'm like, man, I don't need all that. Like, I know what I know and I know what I like. Just tell me about the movie. You don't try to gussy it up too much. Because I mean, I'll review a movie like Boar the same way I could review like Dawn of the Dead, which is like one of my favorite movies of all time, the original. and I'm just gonna talk about how it affected me directly, like how I enjoyed it. And then just talk about that experience. I don't know. Like to me, sometimes people get a little too deep in the woods with some of the stuff. What do you got over there? You getting ready to show something off? It looks like.
No,
I thought you were reaching for something.
I was trying to figure out how to tighten that up. I can't remember. It doesn't. It keeps moving back on me.
Sure. Was there any other topics you wanted to discuss, or anything you wanted to talk about?
I don't. I wrote some questions down. I thought I'd practice questioning you a little bit instead of me. It's like kind of the questions that you've been asking me. Basically, the same old stuff.
Sure. What's up, Mark from Kentucky?
Do you remember what first DVD you ever bought? Can you remember that?
Yeah, the very first DVD I bought was in 1998, I believe, or 1999, and it was American History X. So,
okay,
that's
a good one.
I remember I went to Best Buy and I bought a DVD player. I think I kind of alluded to this in the past. I had a friend of mine in college, and he had a DVD player, and that blew my mind because I never knew what DVDs really were. Like I hadn't heard about it, but we were in college, and I was in the dorm. And he had this drawer he pulled out. And we all know that DVD cases are super thin, whereas VHS obviously much thicker and, whatever, wider. And he pulls out this drawer, and it's just like 100 movies are in there. And I'm like, what? Your mind's blown because, like, you're not used to seeing so many titles, especially back then. I mean, that same drawer would have, like, maybe 20 VHS, maybe, if you're lucky. And they're, like, stacked on top of each other because, you can't get them all in the drawer. And so my mind was blown when he just opens it up, and it's just like literally like 50 DVDs were just like all perfectly filed in there. And I was like, so I went home that weekend or the following couple weeks, and I went to a Best Buy, and I drove over to one, and I want to look around. I got some probably some low end DVD player, I'm sure, but I got it for like $50 or 25. I don't even know what it was. Probably over $50 because it was back in the 90s, so I don't even know. But I was like, it didn't come with anything. So I'm like, I can't have a DVD player without a DVD, So I went through. I mean, like literally, I probably was there for like an hour, just like 'cause I didn't know what I was doing. I was so scared. I'm like, what is the movie to pop this cherry of this DVD player? And I was going through all these titles, and I'm a huge Edward Norton fan. And I saw that, I still have the DVD. I'm like, it will be a movie I'll never get rid of. And I still have it. And like I saw that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this looks like such an incredible film. And I had heard about it, but I'd never seen it. And I picked it up, and it was like, man, I put it in that very first scene. Have you seen it?
Yeah. It's been a long time since it's been a long time. I seen it in the theater. Right. I'm pretty sure,
Right. Well, that first scene is pretty powerful. And man, that was like, oh my gosh. So it was like, wow. So that was the very first movie I ever picked up on DVD. What about you? I think we talked about this, but just you don't got to give me the whole story if you don't want. But what was your first movie? I can't remember.
Well, the first, I mean, it was the Mask that came with my DVD player. Yeah. That's a fun one too. That probably came out like 99, 98 also. Yeah. I would say somewhere around there. The first one I actually bought.
That
I remember buying on the first one. I don't know if it was probably maybe Friday. That movie Friday. Do you remember that?
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah. One of those. Dude, it something like that.
Yeah.
Well, that Christmas, I do remember that Christmas. I got some movies for Christmas, but I got to pick them out what I got. And I got the first set that I ever got was From the Earth to the Moon, the HBO series. I'm a huge space fan, and they released that on DVD because it just came out like the previous year, and they released it on DVD, and it was the original. I still have it actually. It's boxed up right now, but it's in the first one. It was originally came out in full frame, which is how it was broadcast. But somehow, though, that they went back, even though they did that on tape. but they didn't shoot it in widescreen. For some reason they didn't shoot that on film. They shot it in tape. So people are
Huh.
like, well, they're never going to put it on Blu-ray. It'll never get to Blu-ray because of that. So a couple of years later, they re-released it on DVD in widescreen format. They went in somehow and anamorphically made it widescreen. So I have that set, and then I have the Blu-ray set. So they did, even with it being on VHS, they still upconverted it to. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I
so
have a really big
that's
aversion to watching things in full screen or whatever. I know. I think you said you don't mind it so much. I think if I watched you talk about it, you'd mention it's not that big of a deal for you or something. But man, it's a hard thing for me to deal with. Like I know it's like super snobby, and I get it,
big
but
deal
it's
for
just
me.
like
It is a
watching
big
something in
deal if
full
it.
screen.
I'm sorry, I keep cutting you off there.
No,
No, I
go ahead.
said
What
it
were
is
you
a big
saying?
deal. It's a big deal to me too if it's pan and scan.
Right.
If it's something that's it's meant to be widescreen, but they've panned and scanned it to for especially that you've seen that all day long with VHS. They did that with old movies. I don't exactly know
Yeah.
how they do it, but it's basically they set a camera up in front of a TV and they scan. Basically, they basically refilm it. They basically refilm it and find a central point with the camera and focus. Call it pan and scanning. So the image stay the full frame image and it cuts the side off of it. It's just really
Yeah.
crappy what they do.
Yeah.
It's a
Well, I
really
know
crappy
that
process.
I can't
Now
deal with
full
it. I
frame,
know I can't do full frame, regardless if it was meant to be full frame or not. Like it was made that way, or they chopped it off the sides, like you talked about, or whatever. Like I just can't do it. Like when I see it like in a box or like cut off, I mean I'm like immediately like already like I have like breakout in hives or something. I'm like I can't deal with it. No, stop it, turn it off, turn it off. It's so hard for me
that
to. It's so hard for it. So it's
now if it's an old movie and it's shot in 16 millimeter and intended to be full frame, 4:3 or 133:1, it's the same thing.
right.
133:1 is the same as 4:3. But
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
intended to be that way, it don't bother me. But
Uh,
that don't bother me. The old movies, like like the Snyder cut. Everybody said, oh, he just really liked that format, the 4:3 format. He just really liked that. It had nothing to do with him liking it. It had to do with cost. He did that because it was cheaper for him to lop off the sides and had to render a whole lot less CGI in 4:3 than it was doing 235:1 or whatever.
right. Yeah.
Widescreen.
I still haven't seen that Snyder cut yet. I've
Yeah.
heard mixed things about it, but I've never. I'll eventually get around to watching it, but um, I'm
But
not a
what?
huge DC fan, so I'm just like, it'll happen eventually.
But widescreen was possible since the 40s at least, no, 30s, excuse me, in the 30s. I think they developed 70 millimeter film in the 70s or in the 30s, in the late 30s,
Yeah.
they developed 70 millimeter film. And
I mean, if you watch The Hateful Eight, man, that movie is shot so beautifully. I mean, oh my gosh, that is such a. I mean, to me, there is so much. There's so much in that frame. Those landscape shots are so rich in colors and landscapes, and even inside the building. That what do they call it? A Habershey or something? I can't remember what they're calling it. But it was absolutely beautiful. I'm like, this is the reason why they should film on film. Like this is a perfect example of why that should be done. Like it is so amazing. I just love the way that movie looks. Oh my gosh, like it's fantastic. And the movies just don't look like that anymore. I mean, they just don't. I don't know. I could tell you, I could just see like so much, like just quality in that frame, and that more Morricone score. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like, I don't even want to go down that road. But anyways, yeah, that was a great showing of what film can be done in the right hands. So,
Yeah.
do you have any other?
He's a big component of film.
Oh, for sure.
Tarantino, he likes shooting
Once
on
people
film.
like Tarantino, people like Tarantino either stop making movies or pass on. I mean, I think that realm of true auteurs and people who really want to show old school film the way it's supposed to be meant to be presented and focus on the olden days of filming in film, it's all going to be gone. It's like no one's going to touch it anymore. It's all going to go to digital. Like they're going to shoot in digital. They're going to portray it in digital, and like actual physical film, it will be like stuff that you see in a museum. It won't even be something you won't even deal with anymore.
Well, that war used to happen in audio a long time ago, probably about 25 years ago when I first got into it. The digital versus analog war was kind of on, at least for like real connoisseurs. I mean, it still is for record collectors and people like, oh yeah, you know, the record sounds better, it's more warm and stuff. It's true, but like they developed things like that tube preamp I'm using, like, you know, mixing new digital mixing board amplifiers and a lot of analog components to help out digital recording. What they said about digital recording, see, digital recording back in the 80s was horrible when they were using DAT. I've got a Dweezil Zappa record that sounds like crap.
Right.
I mean, he shreds the guitar, but it sounds like crap because it's the early digital, like the early digital recordings. Probably old DAT recording, you know, digital audio tape, and it just sounds so cold and just lifeless. But that's changed over the years, and I have a feeling with digital video, it's going to be the same way. They can already do a whole lot of things to make it a lot warmer. But I agree. You're just not going to. You can't recreate grain like you can, you know, film. You can't recreate that grain. That's what it's just. You can simulate it, but you can't recreate it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm just an old school guy when it comes to like that the medium of film. I just, you know, music I don't feel as strong about. You know what I'm saying? I don't really care about TV shows all that much about it, you know. But when I'm watching an epic film, I want to see it the way I feel like it's meant to be seen, and that's on actual film, blown up to whatever. If they need to blow it up for widescreen or 70 millimeter or whatever, or if they actually can show it the way it's meant to be shown. I don't know, but it's very hard for me to know that eventually, I mean, almost everybody have already went 100% to digital. There's only a few holdouts left, and then once they're gone, I don't see it ever coming back.
Yeah.
So I mean, people like Martin Scorsese and all them shoot on digital now. They don't shoot on film anymore. I mean, everybody's shooting on digital.
Well, the same thing that happened in the recording industry that's going to happen to, I think it's going to happen to the movie industry as well, is you're going to see it really go to the amateurs. You know, everybody can have a recording studio, and now just about everybody can have their own film studio in their pocket with a phone. You know,
which I hate, because, you know, you should know what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? Not anybody can turn on a camera and hit record, and they can be a filmmaker. But I mean, that's why we have so many problems with people now who say they're independent journalists, because they have a camera on their phone and they can record whatever they think they deserve the same respect as an actual journalist who spent, you know, 4 to 8 years in college and actual, you know, print media and all this other stuff. You know, it's just crazy. So that's funny. My face is frozen like that. That's hilarious.
Have you ever seen that Kevin Smith movie Cop Out?
Unfortunately, yes.
Well, I didn't think it was horrid, but he talks about that movie.
But, I mean, it wasn't great.
No, it wasn't one of his better ones, but But he talked about when he made that movie. It's kind of that's the thing about amateur filmmakers versus he had barely any film school. If you know about him, he went to like just a basic 1-year program, but he only stayed 6 months and he left, and he'd used the rest of the money to make Clerks.
Right. Yeah.
And he I think it was in that special Too Fat for 40 he made. He had a special called Too Fat for 40 where he basically did stand-up comedy.
Right, I remember.
But he's kind of spoken word stuff, and he was talking about that where he was shooting a scene with You still there? You still there? I don't know if we've completely frozen up or what's going on here. No, but Kevin Smith was basically shooting a scene where he wasn't doing something right, and Bruce Willis like corrected him. He's like, he's basically like, don't you know what kind of lens to use in this scene? And it's like, I don't know if Dave Klein, the guy that's like worked with him for years as DP, his director of photography, but he was like, Bruce Willis was like, came over to him and it's like, seeing if Scott gets back in here. But Bruce Willis basically had to correct. He had to come over and say, if you use this lens, you got to use this lens this way and this lens that way. Is basically correcting him. And I don't know if it's kind of embarrassed him or not, but I think that's why Bruce Willis don't have a lot of respect for him. I know he put him in one of his movies and stuff. They may be slightly friends or something, but he just kind of showed his amateur. That's after making how many movies he had made at that point. He didn't know some basic filmmaking. Did you hear me through all that?
Yeah, I can.
Did you hear me what I was talking about?
Yes.
Yeah, but it was kind of, that's the only thing that I've heard, but I can't believe he even told that story. It'd be embarrassing if I was but I mean, Bruce Willis have made so many movies. That's why people like Bruce Willis, if they really wanted to, they could be directors. That's why a lot of actors end up directing, because they, especially ones that's been in a lot of movies, they've done it so many times they can just direct. Like That Thing You Do, the Tom Hanks movie. I loved that movie. I don't know why he didn't go and make, try to direct more stuff, but
sure.
But because that was a pretty good movie. But I'm trying to think some other, actors that kind of went on to make movies. Right off the top of my head, of course, this is where
actors.
Yeah, actors that went on to make movies and become pretty successful directors. Other than Clint Eastwood, obviously.
Sure. Let's take a look here. Ben Affleck.
Yeah, Ben Affleck.
Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
Let's see who else. Yeah, I'm looking at my collection.
I'm sure there's some big one that they're probably in the chat over here saying, "No, can't you remember this person? I can't remember."
Yeah, Ron Howard. That's a good one.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's probably the real big one. Yeah. God, he was Ron Howard, definitely. He was making movies before he was out of the diapers. Pretty much. Him and Clint. He talks about him and Clint making movies. That's a funny combination, Ron's not that horrible looking of a guy, but Clint looks like he hit every stick on the every branch on the way down on an ugly tree,
Oh, Clint Howard.
Yeah. He's great in all the stuff. He's in a lot of horror, and he's like in all his movies. I love him to death. He's he's a cute kid. He's one of those people that were really cute kids, but when he grew up, he became, he was the ugly duckling.
Like me. He sure did.
Like me, I'm the same way. But
yeah, Clint Howard. Oh, man. Ice Cream Man from back in the
Yeah.
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, well, hey man, we've been doing an hour and a half, so I think it's probably we'll go ahead and cut it off. We've been doing it for a while. I appreciate you popping on.
Yep. Until next week, I guess.
Yeah, we'll try to do it again next week, and we'll see how things go.
Yeah. Sounds good.
All right,
to
man.
me.
Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you guys. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Peace.